We're going to spend just a few minutes talking about your writing about the Titanic. It says, support your answer to the question with evidence from both texts. The question says, why were there only 705 survivors on the Titanic wreck? So you have to use what you know and what you read in both articles to come up with an answer. So kind of think about that. If you need to, jot a little answer down in the side here. Why is it that only 705 people survived? It doesn't really tell you explicitly in the story. You have to think of what was happening. How many times were they warned? How fast did it go down? Where were they at? Okay, so I want you to think of your reasons. Remember, I told you that today we're not doing it where you're just copying from me. So you're gonna try your very best. I don't want you to get frustrated. Follow race. R and A go together, so you're going to restate it and give your answer. There were, take off the why were, switch the were to a better spot. There were only 705 survivors of the Titanic wreck because, and give your answer. And then you're going to cite and explain. Cite and explain. Okay, so I'm going to leave that up there in case you need to look at that for a minute. Pause it if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to help you just a little bit just to get started. You can rewatch the video as often or as many times as you need to. I'm going to give you some ideas about getting started. This fuzziness is bothering me. Sorry. All right. So I want you to think about a couple of things, okay, when you're citing. Here's one way to cite from the timeline. The RMS Titanic timeline, that's the name of the article, shows that on, and then you can put the date, and then you can put your quote. Okay, so one of the quotes I see is April 4th, 1912, or excuse me, April 14th, 1912. I could use one says 6 more warnings of ice and icebergs are received throughout the day. Well, that tells me that they had a lot of warnings. Did they listen to those warnings? I'm not sure that they did, because if there were 6 more warnings and then at 11:40 at night, that's when something happens, it doesn't sound like they listened to it. So you might say something like that. The RMS Titanic timeline shows that on, and I put the date, April 14th, 1912, then I use my quotations. Put a comma after the date, put my quotations, and write. 6 more warnings of ice and icebergs are received throughout the day. I could use one like that, and then go on to explain that they didn't listen to these warnings. So because they didn't listen, there was a big problem, and most of the people died. There were only a few that survived. 705 sounds like a lot of people, but out of how many were there, it was not a lot of people. It tells you in the timeline over 2,000 people were on the boat, so really only like 1/3 of them survived. 1 out of every 3 people. Okay, I could also have tried one from April 14th saying that the officer orders a hard starboard turn, or only 37 seconds pass before the right side of the Titanic is scraped by the iceberg. I could use anything like that to show they just had to make make a quick fix, and it didn't work very well because they didn't listen. They didn't have much time to help people survive. Something like that. Using the other one, remember you have to cite twice. You want to use both articles. So restate and answer your question, cite something and explain it, and then cite from the other article and explain that. So if I was going to cite from the other article, I might say something like, according to Finding the Wreckage, remember, just put quotation marks around the title. I might say something like, where this is, right here. It says, this was mainly due to the incorrect position last given over the radio from the crew as the ship was sinking. Well, it's talking about why it was hard to find it. But remember what I showed you, that you can use I don't have my eraser right here. So this, what I'm writing here, this light is getting yucky, huh? This, what I'm writing here, does not go with this top part, okay? I can write, what I want them to know is that they didn't have, there was an incorrect position last given over the radio from the crew as the ship was sinking. So remember, I can leave out some of the other words in order to make my sentence make sense. Well, another, you know, according to Finding the Wreckage, maybe I do that, the incorrect position last given over the radio from the crew as the ship was sinking. I can quote that and then explain that nobody could get to them because they were given a wrong location and nobody knew where to find them. So people died before they could be saved. Something like that, okay? I want you to try your very best. Your goal is to try and restate it, cite and explain, cite and explain. Try your very best. Don't get frustrated with it because this is just practice. We're practicing, practicing, practicing it. Okay? Do your very best. Use your nice handwriting. If you're finished before other people are finished, go back and reread yours. Did you restate an answer? Did you cite where you used quotation marks and told where it came from and explain that answer? Cite from the other article, use quotation marks, told where it came from, and explain that answer? If so, and you're still waiting on people, go back and check for complete sentences, capitals where they go, periods, and spelling correctly. Okay? Go do a great job on your writing.